Good evening! Today I'm going to address a question that has been asked of me by several of the good people on Reddit, and that's, why not Ocean Boulevard? See, the streetcar takes a route straight down Broadway Avenue and then turns onto 2nd Street or Livingston, depending on which alternative is used. But there is an obvious third alternative, which would be for the line to head straight down Ocean Boulevard from Long Beach Boulevard. But I didn't opt for this route, and today I'm going to get into why exactly, at least in this instance, the straightest route isn't necessarily the best route. When people are deciding whether or not to use transit, one of the biggest factors that they generally consider is convenience. Can I walk to the train station? So, for the purposes of this video, we're going to say that a reasonable walking distance is no more than 15 minutes or so. As you can probably tell from my Photoshop demonstration, with both options A and B, there are cool cats like you on both sides of the line, both within reasonable walking distance of the train. But with option C, the number of people that would have to walk more than 15 minutes to get to the train increases on the north end and does not decrease on the south side because nobody lives on the beach, at least not officially. Essentially, nobody new would be served by the streetcar who wasn't served by alternatives A or B, and some people that would be served by A and B are no longer served by option C. So even though Ocean Boulevard is a straighter route with fewer intersections, Broadway is still a better option, simply because it could provide convenient, walkable access to a larger number of people than Ocean Boulevard. Since this is a streetcar for people and not some kind of zany reverse whale watch, Ocean Boulevard just doesn't make as much sense. What is this, a train for whales? Good boy. Good boy. Hey, buddy. Oh, hey, Gary. What's new? Don't knock my train over. Choo-choo. Another thing we're going to get into today is population density in the area around the proposed routes. Now, as you can see, there are currently 2 people in this chair right here. There's me, and there's Gary. And then Mr. Spreckles just came over to join us. So now there's 3. And that's 3 times the population density in this one chair. 1, 2, 3. Population density is actually a big factor when it comes to transit planning, mainly because a transit line in a very densely populated area can serve far more people than the same transit line in a less dense area. To help illustrate this, imagine walking from 7th Street to Broadway. That would take about 15 minutes. Walking from 7th Street to Ocean, however, is more like 20 minutes. 20 minutes being sufficient to discourage people who might otherwise ride transit from doing so. I don't know why 20 minutes seems like so much longer than 15 minutes to the human mind, but it's real and it's just one of those things. And so we're going to use the website socialexplorer.com to look at population density changes in the areas around both the old Pacific Electric routes back in the 40s and the 60s when they were abandoned, and also today. And we're going to see how much the population density has increased in Long Beach since 1940 and 1960. The darker the color on the Social Explorer map, the denser the area is. And we're looking at a 1960 map of the area around the present-day Metro Blue Line, 1 year before its predecessor was abandoned, the Pacific Electric. Now you can pretty clearly see that downtown Long Beach in 1960 was already a very densely populated area. And not unlike the Metro Blue Line, Metro's most popular rail line with 75,000 to 80,000 average weekday boarding, the Pacific Electric's line along the same route was also its most popular. The density you can see here in the downtown Long Beach area has something to do with that. And the downtown area has not thinned out in any way, shape, or form since 1960. As you can see here, the present density map of downtown Long Beach is awash with burgundy, indicating population density in excess of 10,000 people per square mile. This trend of increasing density appears even more starkly when you step back in time to 1940. Most of the Pacific Electric's non-arterial routes were actually abandoned in the late 40s and early 50s. Only the most popular routes survived until 1961. Most of the smaller lines serving areas with less dense populations having been abandoned many years prior. But those areas have become a lot denser since those lines were abandoned in the 40s and 50s. When one looks back at the history of the Pacific Electric many years later in the present day, it's very clear that had they only held on to those smaller lines a few more years and maybe invested a bit of money into upgrading the infrastructure, the population density would have caught up. But the public wasn't willing to help bail out a private company because the Pacific Electric was not publicly owned, and unfortunately that was the end. The sad, sad end. But as tragic as was the irony of having lost the Pacific Electric, or at least the non-arterial lines of the Pacific Electric, just a few years before the population density would have grown to a point that could have supported them, it also means that resurrecting some of these lines makes more sense now than ever before. What with the failure of any tract of land in Los Angeles County to decrease in population density at all, anywhere in the last 50, 60 years. As usual, thanks so much for tuning in. Please do like and subscribe for more videos as I try and get the city of Long Beach to build a streetcar. And don't forget to join me next time as we look into some additional possibilities for funding the streetcar project.